Welcome everyone to In Other Worlds, a lit RPG, game lit, and fantasy podcast. I am your host Jess, and today we are sitting down with brand new lit RPG author Joedan Worley. Joedan, how are you?
I am suspiciously good. Something's up.
I mean, you can just be good. Yeah,
I could just be good. Yeah. I did warn you that I was going to be randomly looking around like a crazy person because my lights are subtly shifting colors. Probably.
They are,
You let me know if they really are. Okay, good. Then it's not just me.
They are a little bit. It went from like a pinkish to a purple.
I'm okay with both of those colors. If we go into yellow, I'm out. I'm done.
Noted.
Done.
Noted. Okay. I won't let you know then.
Yeah, I just absolutely, lie to me, please.
I will.
Like, no, you've got a nice solid rose glow to you right now.
Yeah. It's like a halo effect. You look very pleasant.
This is the opposite of an interview. I've already derailed it and we haven't even got started yet.
I know. It's okay. It's all right. Okay.
That's Joedan.
I like to keep it kind of flowy a little bit, so this works. I can get us back on track.
Perfect.
Your first book, Wayspring Wanderer.
Yeah. A Desert Druid lit RPG.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is officially out. Give us a little snippet rundown. What's it about?
I was born in a small town. No. So the story is about a Marine. His name is Oscar, and he's pretty much lost everything. I know it's lit RPG, and everyone's like, "Yeah, you can't be sad." I mean, I wanted my character to feel real, and unfortunately, some of the best people and even average people turn great when they go through hard things. And so we don't sit in that sadness for long. He is somebody with perseverance who pushes through. With that being said, he's looking for his brother. His brother has disappeared off the coast of Africa doing contract work, the year before. He's on the back end of a life-altering injury himself. He lost his foot to a roadside bomb. And so he ends up following his brother. Oscar shows up in a desert planet with two suns in his boxers with no leg on, with a hotel bed sitting in the middle of the sand. And he's, sort of the story builds from there of him looking for his brother. I got big monsters. I got kobolds. Funny story. My kobolds. Have you ever read Magic Kingdom? Magic Kingdom for Sale Sold by Terry Brooks?
No, I actually have that. I have a large number of Terry Brooks books.
Yeah. I have all of Terry Pratchett's, and I've read like one. I have all of his books, though.
I'm that way with Terry Brooks.
He has this crazy series where this guy, like, his wife passes away. His name's Ben Holiday, I think. And he sees this crazy article in the newspaper that's like Magic Kingdom for sale. And of course it's nuts, but he just can't let it go. And he's like, I have no reason to be here anymore. I don't care about this money. I don't care about all these things that I have. The kobolds in that story are these like purple, long-eared, super dangerous like creatures. And so all these, shiny kobolds and stuff from WoW or whatever that have kind of taken over what people think of kobolds, I never pictured them that way, because the first time I was ever introduced to the concept of a kobold, it was by Terry Brooks. So that's what my kobolds are based off of, is actually Terry Brooks kobolds.
That was actually something that I noticed when I was reading it. I'm like, this is not how I normally picture them. This is like the opposite of.
Did a lore drop on you just now, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, info dumped you right there. Yeah. I just ruined the whole chapter.
No.
I should have spaced it out.
I finished book one. I'm very excited for book two.
Oh, nice. Nice. Book two's even better.
They were not typical for like a typical fantasy style characters.
I wanted to work hard on my characterization, lean into everybody being individual. Weirdly, it's funny because my wife sent me an article that talked about Cormac McCarthy and how he didn't use dialogue tags. And his whole argument was that if you write characters well enough, you don't need them. And though I don't lean into that totally, I think he's got a really solid point. If you can't make a pretty good, when you get a text from somebody, sometimes you're scrolling through Facebook and you don't even see the name, but you know exactly who wrote it just off of a glance. Yeah. And that's I was like, that's not a bad way to write a character, so that, you generally know the things they focus on. They're physical, or they're ethereal, or they're spiritual, or whatever it is that makes them different.
There were a handful of your characters in the book that you just kind of knew just based on kind of the way that they acted and presented themselves.
My weird little purple kobold characters.
I liked them. They were
Well,
good
nice.
characters.
Good.
They were good. I liked them a lot.
Good.
So you picked the desert.
I did.
I think this is the first lit RPG book that I've read that focuses in like just this big never-ending desert.
Yeah.
Why a desert?
Maybe in some ways, because that's where, kind of my life changed. I was a corpsman with 2-1 Marines. I went over to Fallujah, Iraq in 2004. I got a nice parking spot out of it, and I have a above knee amputee on the left side. My right ankle's fused, my right knee's reconstructed. And my main character also, as I mentioned earlier, is an amputee as well. But I'm very careful to never make him a victim because of that. It is just another hurdle. It's another problem, just like learning the magic, just like surviving in a world that's really not made for survival anymore. That seems to be dying. And so, on my end of things, I think the desert just represented the kind of struggle that I wanted the character to go through. In a weird sort of way, it was almost like a mean choice to take a druid and put him in a desert. And
it is, yeah.
And it's one of those things that, as a kind of a pantser character writer, you build the world through the characters and the interaction. Like, I described my world well enough, but I was blown away when somebody was like, the world building in the story is an easy 10 out of 10. I was like, really? And I didn't think that I had not done it, but then I realized that there are other authors out there that, an example would be Eden Hudson. Eden Hudson's worlds are so incredible, and they feel so like off balance. Like there's something that's always a little like under the surface, and she never explains it. It's like playing Dark Souls or something. Like you never get the lore behind why it is, but you see the effect it has on the people. And that, it really was very encouraging to read that comment, because I'm like, okay, because I was afraid as a new author that there was a gap, that there was a weakness that I had somewhere. And apparently that's not it. Whatever it is, that doesn't seem to be it. To be able to make a vibrant world that feels real and has history out of a desert is absolutely a challenge. And I'm happy to know that at least for some people that it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, going through the book and reading just the character building and the world building and the way that you make some of these characters so relatable.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like this is the first book that you've put out.
That is a very sincere and appreciated. Why am I going to cry?
It was really good. It was really good.
I really do appreciate that. That's a very kind thing for you to say. I think if there's one thing in my life that I knew I was going to be good at my whole life, it was just reading. And I'm not one of those people that knows the story beats. Sometimes you'll talk to people and you just feel like, I have no idea what I'm doing with this whole writing thing, because they're speaking. But for me, I just know when it's right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. I know the concept. I know the concept of a first act, second act, third act. I know a rise and fall, conflict, saving the cat. I know all these things on paper, but it's like time dilation. I don't. Yeah. I can describe it to you, but it doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. I just know. I just know when it's right. And so I just kept writing and kept editing. And I have some incredible people in my corner with Shadow Alley Press that have made sure that some of these tough things that I decided to write a book that does talk about mental health and lit RPG, but not in a way that makes anybody a victim. It's really, the whole story is about finding purpose again when you've lost it.
Yeah.
And so I really do appreciate that. Was a very kind compliment. Thank you.
I told myself that I was going to get through this interview and I wasn't going to cry. So I'm not going to let myself cry.
I almost beat you to it. I'll cry though. Like I will get in front of 1,000 people. So,
so you wrote this character, right? And you said you didn't want the loss of his leg to be a liability, and you wanted him to kind of to show that he can work through that and he can still function and still be relatively normal. But at the same time, even though he was given this druid class that is unique, and so he has to create this class himself, he still isn't this like unbelievably overpowered MC. He still is on a little bit on the frail side, and he's still learning how to use his powers and what his powers even can be. Like, I think there was one fight where he was knocked out right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, he had no part in that fight because it just got knocked right out.
there's different ways to make characters powerful, and instead of leaning right into him being gifted something that just automatically made him powerful, I wanted him to work for it. I wanted him to put the work in, and instead of it being an overpowered class that he just learns how to use, I wanted it to be a custom, like it's almost like a, your armor or a weapon that's just perfectly weighted for you, and that's what I wanted it to be for him. And so, as you get further into the story, and especially through book 2, which is just insane, you start seeing the little pockets. Sometimes he has dreams where he gets to see these little, concepts of what could be. And I just wrote a scene in Act 3 that feels so much a departure from where he started. And I cannot wait to see what people think, for better or for worse, because I know that as a writer, as an author, you're not going to hit everybody, but I do things that are well thought out for specific people. I will go through great effort to hit the 7 readers that understand biology, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love doing stuff. I don't mind going in and doing research. In fact, my editor is a biologist as well. And so when she saw what I had done with the hyenas, and how I had sort of created these out of extinct Earth versions of, she was, and again, I'll go out of my way for somebody specific like that. I'm just blown away at the feedback and the encouragement. And, in the magic system, you're going to see more and more about what it can turn into, and who he can become.
I think the magic system in this has been pretty unique. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the elemental style of magic, the earth, the air, the water. Despite him being a druid in the desert, he still has a way to find water, which has been one of the main things that has been able to keep their little conclave going.
You're absolutely right. And I'm not really making a statement in that when you have the resources to focus on something that other people can't focus on, that you can grow in power in ways that they can't grow. I wasn't making a statement. This is literally just there are no druids in that world anymore. They're gone. They're dead. Weirdly, the greatest power and the only reason he's alive is because he can find water. That's his thing, is he can find water. It seems like a silly druid power until you're walking around in a desert with 2 suns and you're like, it'd be nice if I had the ability to find water. Yeah. And so because he doesn't have to spend half of his day, like every other creature on this earth, trying to find water, he can focus on that magic. He can train. He can do things. They can pull water up out of the ground without exposing the Wayspring. And so they don't have to deal with predators. They don't have to deal with the problems that come with, it's like those animals that try to get water without getting eaten by a crocodile or something, And in this world, it's kind of the same thing. You try not to get eaten by a crocodile.
Anything that's living in that desert, the first little hint of water, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. So that is handy. Yeah. I mean, obviously, having Penny helps with that.
Oh, I love Penny.
She is just the cutest. So what made you choose a pangolin?
I love that. They don't look real.
They don't.
Listen, the first time I ever saw a pangolin, I'm like, why are these not domesticated and in people's homes? Forget dogs. I love dogs. I work for a service dog organization that trains dogs for veterans. So I love dogs, but pangolins, bro, come on. That's a clear upgrade, right?
They are super cute. I mean, it was just, even the picture of Penny on the cover, it's too much. It's too much. I just can't handle it.
Weirdly, when I think about my book doing like super well, I don't think about like going on writing retreats with like Chatfield and Norden and the boys. I literally think of, I could make plushies of Penny for people. No, I swear to you that my measure for success is when I get to a point to where people want plushy pennies. That'll be as important as the first time I see somebody doing a cosplay. I'm not joking.
Listen, I would take a little plush Penny and I would stick her right on my bookshelf.
Okay, I might end up on Etsy before this year's over.
You would sell them. They would sell really well. She's just adorable.
She is adorable. And she is probably the most based off of a person out of all my characters. I generally will take an element about someone that I appreciate or admire.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what about that do I like? And I don't build a character off of necessarily that person, but kind of that trait. And Penny is probably is a lot based off of my middle daughter. She's just Penny. I don't know how to describe it. She's just Penny.
I think that's adorable. Did you expect people to love Penny as much as they did? Did you, like, I feel like she is just going to be the character that everyone loves.
She is. I did a poll on Royal Road, and she got like 65%. I mean, I didn't let it hurt my feelings or anything that was the most dynamic character I have,
Yeah.
but I do understand peer pressure and why plot armor exists. So I do tell people that if anybody in the story has plot armor, it's Penny.
Yeah.
And they're like, it better stay that way. And I'm like, chill, relax.
Listen, if something happens to Penny,
I, you are not the
that'll be
first
it.
person to bodily threaten me.
Yeah, so you can't do anything to Penny. She has to stick around.
Penny is safe. I just got to make sure that she stays as awesome because as Oscar grows in power, you know, she has to serve a purpose. And so
Yeah.
it's fun. These aren't things that I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Weirdly, problems give me direction. I know exactly what I need to do usually for that. And so, you know, writing Penny's growth is fun too.
The animal companion ends up being the favorite. I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of overwhelmingly like the way that it typically ends up when you have a good animal companion.
Why do you think that is?
Animals are loved.
Yeah,
We feel like we need to protect them. I mean, how can you hate an animal?
you're
You-
right. I think that when you write an animal companion, you have a little more leeway to have fun with the character.
Mhm.
And you can tell, and nobody really wants to read a silly book unless you know you're going into a silly book. But when the musician or the artist or the author is having fun, it's palpable. And those little
Yeah.
tiny doses of that peppered throughout, the little lighthearted fun, the little, you know, Penny showing off, preening, you know, trying to get pets. And then, you know, you slowly realize that she's not doing this absent-mindedly. She's the distraction. She's doing her part even when, you know, when people are stressed. Her quote unquote neediness is very much purposeful.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I think you get to have fun with characters like that. There's no guile with her. She
Yeah.
wants attention, love, and to take care of the people around her. And there is
Yeah.
no complexity. There's only growth in the strength of that feeling and desire. Not you never have to worry about betrayal or anything like that. And I do want to say that's another thing that I refuse to do. I don't like tight group politics being a tension point in books
Yeah.
because when you fight and bleed with somebody for real, all the dumb stuff goes away. There is no are they going to betray me because of something, and you will never see. I'm not going to say that all my characters are going to agree because they're not going to. They're very different people, but at no point is there going to be a point where I use the tension of the group as a, you know, as a high beat,
Yeah.
especially Penny.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to talk about later in the book, but I also don't want to give away spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that it would kind of ruin a little bit of the book if I did. But like, there's one time when the group is walking through the desert and they have.
Oh, really?
You'll know when you get to it.
Because there'll be sand.
Right. And they're walking through and they have a fourth person with them. And that person has been through just unspeakable, horrible things. And Penny is just, you know, jumping through the sand and trying to show off a little bit and just trying to kind of distract them. And
Yeah.
it ends up kind of working. And she's just such a lovable character.
She really is. And you know, I think if there's those two characters that you were just talking about are the two that I think if I could hug, what is going on with me today?
I don't think that the non-Penny character I don't know. I don't feel like they would really want a hug
Not then.
because they
Not
feel
yet.
like if they get a hug, it will all just fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah, not yet. Not yet. I think we've all rode that line before.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll say this about grief as a whole, and this is, an aside from the book, but also very, very deeply ingrained, I think. There are times when you don't want someone to relate to you. You don't want someone to say, I know what you're going through, or I too have lost someone. I don't want to know that
Yeah,
you've hurt the way that I hurt.
yeah,
I've never done a talk about my experience in Iraq and wish somebody would be like, oh, I was there. I too hurt when you lost these people on Labor Day, when you lost most of your second squad. I too,
yeah.
those were all people that were close to me. That's the last thing that I want. But there's a time to let out the long breath. There's a time to do that, and it's not when the work needs done. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there comes a time when I want someone to simply be present that I know cares,
Hmm.
not to put me in a situation where I have to reassure them that I'm okay when I'm not.
Yeah. A few months back, I lost my father, and I had gone through a point where I was like, "Don't hug me, don't
Mm,
touch me. I can't handle it right now. I have shit to do." Like,
yeah,
had to take care of everything. I was the oldest child, and so I was like, "Okay, I'm the executor." Like, I went into work mode. I'm like, I got to do this and this and this, and I got to get this done, and I need to call these people. And I was like, that's what I'm going to focus on right now. And I was like, that's it. That's
yeah.
all I'm focusing on. I just had to get the work done.
I'm proud you're here.
Thank you. It was a lot. I am glad that you're here as well.
Well, thank you. It's been
That's,
a little work getting here. Little walk, run, and crawl minus the running.
yeah, you know. I mean, at least you're not walking through a desert full of sand.
It could be worse. I would never do that to me.
Right,
I've got people for
right.
that.
It's so mean.
um,
It's mean to
oh,
put him
oh,
through
by the
desert
way,
full of
you
sand.
did mention her. Let's see if I can get Penny up on the. Hey,
Ugh,
Penny.
so cute.
And if you'll notice the prosthetic.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
there. As his man, this is hard trying to not give away
Trying to
things
talk
later in the
around.
book.
You can just say there is a character and I'll roll with it.
So, the healer that they end up finding
Yeah.
ends up, God damn it, no, because that's going to ruin part of it. Never mind. I'm not going to ask that question because it's going to ruin it. I'll ask you that after
All right.
after we're done. I'll go
I
through it.
just want to say the the end of the book is not a tie it up in a nice bow, beautiful, but it is very satisfying. It
It
is very
was.
affirming. It is very like maybe all this could be worth it
Yeah,
someday. But I think also you get a touch of the big picture of what needs to really happen. And
yeah.
so, I would encourage anyone who may be a little thrown by the oddity of the start of the book to continue reading. I feel like it's one of those books that really does get better and better and better, and that stuff isn't just wasted. It's not. I tried not to have anything wasted. It's a foundation that's there for a reason.
Yeah, I picked it up, and when I started it, I was just like, okay, well, where is this going? Like,
Yeah,
he's waking up on this hotel bed in the middle of the desert. Like, what? How is he
yeah.
even going to survive? Like, what? Where is this going to go? And as I continued reading it, and more characters were introduced, and he started to learn more about the world and its powers, I was like, oh, oh. So
And
was
there's an odd sort of overarching synergy that I don't feed to the reader. And so I love those moments. I love those moments when a reader gets it. I mean, I think that there are some really solid books out there that as a writer you have to balance spoon feeding, but also allowing those who like to read into things and to figure things
Mhm.
out themselves some room to play as well. And so that is one thing that I don't really compromise on, because at the point Oscar himself doesn't really know what the purpose of it all is.
Yeah.
He's
I mean, that's
just,
how he's able to do a lot of the stuff that he can with magic, is because
yeah.
he has no preconceived notions of what the limits are supposed to be.
Yeah, he's not a savant that shows up like in every, in a lot of other books, like, oh, I understand the
Yeah.
crafting. People have been doing this for 1,000 years, but what if I added baking soda? It's like, okay,
Right.
buddy. Like,
He does
there's
brute
none of
force
that.
some of it. He does. He brute forces some of it.
He does brute force some of it. And he pays the price for that occasionally as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't use a hammer to fix a window without getting some cuts.
Yeah. So in the book, I think that you had mentioned, it may not have been right at the beginning, but not at the end of the book, that the world is kind of dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that implies, to me at least, that at one point, and you don't have to answer this question if this is too much of a spoiler, but that implies to me at least that at one point it wasn't that bad. So it may not have been.
It was fantastic
this
at one
big
point.
desert
Yeah.
planet. There may have been like lush cities and oceans.
Mm-hmm.
Do the later books kind of go into that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Book 2, especially, book 2 is with the editors right now. And, the end of that book. So, oh man, there's something really cool. I will never, ever, ever tell anyone, because I think it's, a really cool moment that I wouldn't want to steal from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
There was a world, and I don't think it's really, I can go into a spoiler, because to be honest, it's not even a spoiler, but a little bit of the world building, there's not history books. There's no way for them to find these things out. And so although I won't go into everything, which I have thought through everything, because again, when I make a character, I build that character from childhood. I think, what did this person go through as a kid? And
Wow.
you learn that about Oscar, what he went through as a very young kid, and what it was as his older brother to see him go through that, and to have to be that older brother in that moment. And there's some really cool things that happen in book 2 that dive all the way into that stuff, all the way back to childhood. When it comes to his story in particular, and the way that this world sort of like dives and they sort of like find cohesion, is that he's there to bring the world back to what it should be, to balance things out. He's not necessarily a beacon of goodness. I mean, the cycle of life includes death.
Yeah.
And so in this world, shaman were not always evil. It's just when you give someone access to a bank vault, and they're going to start pocketing gold coins. Not everybody, but many will. And unfortunately, all it takes is a few before somebody's like, we got to lock this up. It's why we have to pull our laptops out at the TSA. It is not for the 100,000 people you see go through the airport every month. It's for the the one or two that that messes it up for everybody. I would love to do a redemption arc on shaman, but it's the way the classes work in this world is that most of what's left is tainted. It's these classes that get passed down are the ones that people unlock. I mean, what most of what like the clinkers and people have are survival classes. They're not combat classes. There's not mages running around. Why would you want to be an elementalist or whatever when is that going to help you find water? You can't create it out of nothing. Even Oscar can't do that. So it helps when you get skills that make it where you don't need to drink every day, or you can find food easier, or your body's just more efficient as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in nothing but a huge vast desert, survival abilities become more important than anything else, because you don't have something to help you survive, then you won't.
It's a survival loop, and they're stuck in it. In this part of the world. I do touch upon there might be something closer to approaching civilization far to the east with the Draken people. But for the most part, they're in the equivalent of the Badlands, which in the original Royal Road opening was where the story started anyway, was in the American Badlands up in the Dakotas. So, I kept the theme a little bit that it's not that there's towns and houses, because there's legitimately not, but there are places that I can't wait to share. It's going to be so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the collectives that run around, one of the characters had talked about the like Sand River,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of cool. Like,
Uh-huh.
that's a really neat. Like, I was picturing that in my head as she was describing it, and I'm like, that is so cool. So I am excited to see what more the world has outside of just the big desert.
That stems from the 80s. You know, we were like growing up and watching cartoons and stuff like, you know, quicksand. I swore that at some
Everywhere, it was
point I was going to
everywhere.
need to know how to handle quicksand. And so I was like, what if there was what if there was something like the Mississippi River, but it was literally like flowing sand?
I mean, that's terrifying.
And see, that's it. I One thing that I love going into is like in his mind right now, just having heard about it, and Fox herself hasn't been there. She just knows of it. She's heard of it.
Yeah,
Could you imagine what that would sound like?
thunderous.
The feel of the earth. Yeah, what you just heard, that sustained thing that's just a bit unsettling. That is what it's going to sound like when we go there. It's going to be something else.
So they are they going to go there?
As a pantser, I can tell you I intend on getting them there.
But you never
I'm not
know.
a full pantser, but I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. I'm not even a boxer briefs guy. That's about, you know, it's like I'm wearing 3/4 inch capris. That's how much pants I am. There's enough there. I do an outline. Generally what I do is I write a paragraph of what I want to happen in the order I want it to happen. And then I strike line the sentences as I go. I did a 8,000 word paragraph trying to force being a plotter for book one. And by the time we got to the Griffiths vulture, I was so far off track that it was completely useless to me. I could have wrote 3 chapters in the amount of time it took me to write that. So I won't be sitting down but the downside being I have to go back and make sure that I get my facts right. I can't pants forever because, you know, any deviation and next thing you know, you're off in Albuquerque.
And then you'll get people reaching out to you being like, excuse me.
Your math is wrong here, sir.
Earlier, and now it's saying this. So
I appreciate people like that, though. I really do. You know, just please approach me with some respect. You'll absolutely get it back. I might even drop some lore on you, like whatever you want. I'm excited to talk about the story anyway. So
yeah, I mean, it's good. So yeah,
it's unique, and I think that. And again, there's a reason why, you know, we have a lot of books that are very similar in theme, and you know, you got OPMCs because you know, a lot of times people read and that's what they want. You know, me personally, there's a series that I grew up reading called The Dark is Rising, and it's a little bit young adult, and it's kind of a comfort read for me when I want to read something where the stakes are just a little bit different, you know, and so, you know, but for people who really want to dive into characters and have that stuff, and I think I strike a balance between people who want to read Eden Hudson but don't want everybody to die. So.
yeah. I mean, some people have come close,
and it is a harsh world. I feel like there's a pretty impactful situation near the end of the book.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
But
thank you. That feels good too.
You've written it in a way that it doesn't feel like all of them are 100% safe.
Yeah, they're legitimately not, just because they're safe so far. I mean, honestly, I had intended one character to make it far into book 2, at least, and when I wrote it, it just, you know, and it just didn't feel right. It was wrong. It happened the way it needed to happen, and it, you know, that's just how it was. I you know, that's kind of the problem with pantsing, is that you have to be true to what feels right and you can't, when you stop doing that, people will recognize like, okay, we've got some Deus Ex Machina popping in here now, because that, realistically, why would this person have made it through this without at least losing this?
Right. Yeah. Or it just feels forced.
It feels forced.
And that can come through in writing also.
I had like planned out a really big scene in book 2. And I was excited for it because it was part of like it was technically going to be the end of book 2.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, I realized that I had written my characters too competent to fall for it. And weirdly, as much as it derailed the entire plan for the end of book 2, I was like, I have really created characters that feel real enough that I can't mess with that. I can't force, incompetence into people that when they make their mistakes, they own up to them and say, this will be better next time. I will not make this mistake again. And my characters aren't perfect, but they learn their lessons and they're self-aware and they self-correct. So that's my favorite kind of people anyway. I like somebody who can be like, you know what? I did this thing and it was dumb and everyone told me it was dumb, and I could argue with them further, or I could not argue and learn my lesson and move on and accept it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I swung on a kid when I was like 13 years old. He was 15 and I had whooped a bunch of kids, so I wasn't worried about this guy at all.
Probably not a good idea, though.
It was not a good idea. He picked me up, and I will never forget this. Guy, if you're out there, please reach out to me. I owe you at least a book. You might have saved my life. I don't even remember what he said, but I lived in, I grew up in Paulding County, Georgia, and, I got messed with a little bit, red hair, smart mouth. I earned it mostly, at least the initial messing with. After that, it's a little, I started popping people in the mouth, and that seemed to work better than telling the teachers. And so I got a little uppity, thinking that I wasn't really worried about people anymore. The only thing I remember is that they were Latino, not part of the reason we got into an argument at all. I didn't remember what he said, but I swung on this kid, and he had like wispy beard, and I was still like, "What'd you say to me?"
At 15?
Oh, he's like the start, a little peach fuzz.
Right.
So he caught, I don't remember if it was my hand or my arm, and wrapped his arms around me and picked me up like a baby and laid me down on the pavement. And Jessica, I will never forget what he said to me. He said, "There's always somebody meaner than you out there." Now, that sounds contrived. I swear that it was that or something very that was what he said though. And in that moment, what went through my mind wasn't anger. I was angry before. What went through my mind was, he's right. It's a very good point. That's a valid point. And it slowed my whole roll. It really did. It slowed my whole roll. And I needed that. I needed somebody. But that young man, that 15-year-old man, I call him a man because I'm sure, learned that lesson hard, and he taught it to me soft.
Yeah.
When I'm sure it would have been very satisfying to pop my smart mouth in the face. Some people say I'm punchable. I get it. I'm not mad at it.
It is what it is.
That guy might have saved my life. That guy might have saved my life.
I mean, that takes a lot of self-reflection and just knowledge. Like that's a very grown way to respond to that as a 15-year-old. Yeah,
he handled that way better than I was handling the situation. And you don't realize you're in a core memory until sometimes years later. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was just humbling at the time. And then later on, I realized that I wasn't quite as quick to, shove somebody's head into the wall or whatever. It was good for me. I think I needed that. I think my injury did kind of the same thing. It just put me into a more positive mindset. Not that getting blown up is a good thing. It kind of sucks, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to put a word, it would be like sucks. I don't know, maybe blows. I don't know, whatever. Not cool, bro. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it sucks, but one of the most important things is the way you respond to it and the way you react to it. And I can imagine a lot of people just giving up and
Well,
being like, well,
sometimes you see like people with scars and they handle it with grace and it makes them an attractive person. Even if it's like, a severe injury or having gone through, survived domestic violence or anything like that. Kids in
yeah.
the foster system, we fostered kids before. You see some really incredible people who haven't quite locked in how to use it all yet, but you can see the potential in them.
Yeah.
Those people have always inspired me the most. When somebody has been, survived some sort of ordeal and they talk to kids about it and stuff like that. And so that's always resonated with me. That and push through, that gets me oof. You telling me a story about, you everything with your family and all that. Like, I love push through. It is so attractive to me in a human being and a friend. I like people that have got grit inside of them.
Yeah.
I like people that have got moxie. As I sort of threw in the start of the book, I like people that have got something inside them that lets them push when other people would give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be hard to do sometimes. Oof.
Sometimes impossible. You just got to do it sort of in retrospect,
Yeah.
I kind of flubbed that one, but it won't happen again. I promise.
Yeah. Or even, letting yourself maybe not push through for a little while and wallow and then eventually just being like, all right, well, I've had enough. This is it.
In the South, we say waller.
Waller. Listen,
We're wallering.
I lived in Georgia for like 20 years.
Oh,
so
yeah? Waller.
I don't say waller. I say wallow.
You should try it out. I think
waller.
I started saying it like, don't shake your head. You just wait. It's going to sneak in now. That's how it happened to me. I say wallow, and then next thing I know, I throw one in there for giggles, and then I'm a waller guy.
No, I'll pass. I'm not in Georgia anymore.
Note to self, Jess isn't a waller girl.
I'm not a waller girl.
Oh my gosh.
So you said that you're a pantser. Mostly, you're mostly a pantser. But do you know how many books roughly you're looking to be in this series?
I know exactly. It being a book one, I don't expect it to go absolutely nutso yet. Daniel Wisniewski, holy crap! I don't know if you listened to. He is so good. I think this was made for him. I think this story was made for him.
He's in like my top 4 audiobook narrators.
He is annoyingly affordable too.
He's so good.
He's going to overbook himself. And it's going to be, I need him to up his prices because, no, I'm not joking. Daniel, charge more. I need you. He's going to be backed up to who knows.
He's really good.
He is really good. And again, I feel like the gravitas, when I wrote this character, we got some really good auditions, but the voice, I needed gravitas. I needed somebody that had, Arby's, the meat. We got the meats. I needed somebody with that. I couldn't picture. There were some really good actors, and then there were people that had the voice. And then I was in the car with Cameron from Shadow Alley Press, and we had decided on a narrator, and then got a late audition from Daniel, and we were driving. And we didn't tell them yet because we were still early on. We didn't tell the other person yet. So, I'm a man of my word, and I probably would have rolled with it anyway. But we turned that audition on, didn't say a word, and 10 minutes later, we were like, well, that's that. What you gonna do?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
But I expect if the series doesn't do great, I'm not going to just put it on hold and see if I get famous later so I can afford to do it later. I will finish the series in a very thick book 3. It will be thick.
Thick with like 2 C's and 4 K's.
Yeah, there's going to be some Q's in there. You're going to be wallering in words. All right, I was just trying it out.
Okay.
You could tell that the pub is me in a lot of ways, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes, it's very funny and snarky.
But I feel like a natural conclusion could happen in 5 books comfortably. I
Okay.
could do it in 4, depending on how I want to flesh out. Really, I want to flesh out the eldritch side of things, the things that
Hmm.
were sort of the thing that was watching him when he was coming through to this new world, the thing that keeps
Yeah.
trying to poke in and watch, this thing that's on the outside edges of the the galaxy, waiting for this planet to die, you know?
Mm.
So,
Okay.
these are all things that if I want to dive into that, I really do need, 3, 4, and 5. And there's some touch points in 2, but the world is still so broken that I don't want to focus outside, and unless those things are linked, I won't go into any more because I want people to watch the story grow in scale and scope. That was my big thing. Is like another cool thing about a desert is I wanted someone to picture how it might feel to be in something that is seemingly endless, to be walking and not having a point that you can look at and say, I'm going to walk to that. It takes a different type of drive and push through to be able to keep going when there's nothing on the horizon. But that's what it takes to survive in this kind of world. Um, I will say that Eric and Oscar were not even close to the first people that were brought here to try to save this world. And that's something that is not in the book, and they will not really have access to finding out. But that's something that I think is important. He's
Yeah.
not the chosen one. He's in some
One
ways what's
of.
left, you know?
That makes me wonder because they talk about in the book that humans are not very common. They're pretty rare.
Yeah.
So like when one pops up, they're typically like forced into this kind of enslavement and sold around.
Yeah.
So that makes me wonder if all of the humans that end up in that world are all brought there in an effort to save that world, or are humans natural, like, or have they always naturally been on that planet?
There are species that have been born and lost, and there are species that have been there that are human or human equivalent, for the entirety of the world. Having said that, the way that everyone got there is something that I want to explore a little bit more into book 3, so I won't go too much into it. But I will say, yes, there are other humans in the world, and not all of them are brought over. And in fact, that's one reason why he wasn't immediately just grabbed and taken straight over to Graham's Collective, was because, especially as merchants, humans just sort of pop in and out. They're more common to be clinkers than anything, realistically,
Mm,
actually, because it's just they're sort of outcast. They do need support. They're not, if they
right.
don't have access to Wayspring water constantly the way that he does, imagine what happens to the human skin over the course of, the humans don't do super well outside of a community or a collective in that world.
No, no. I mean, well, even if they had water, just being on their own
Mm-hmm.
with no one around will eventually drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Being on your own.
And that's why we have pangolins.
Pangolins. They keep us sane. They're so cute. Ugh, I
I
love
love
pennies so
Penny.
much. So you know how many books they're gonna be, and
Mm-hmm.
do you have like a set plan for where you want the story to end, or is that one of those things that you're kind of just you have a loose idea, but you're letting it kind of write itself?
I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think in a world like this that everything is going to be perfect. But I think that's kind of the point, is
Yeah.
that, there's growth in struggle. And I would love to end the story on a bit of a struggling hope,
Hmm.
instead of obliteration or Armageddon. I mean, I think that it would be really cool to be able to tie this up in a way that above all feels authentic and feels realistic without being too convenient. And I'll be honest with you, I have no plans to no hard set plans to cause any readers heartbreak or anything like that with anything in particular, but I just don't know what feels right until I get there.
Yeah.
I'm writing a scene now at the early part of book 3 that I kind of don't want to write. And it's not, again, I will never kill off, one of my main characters to be like, ooh, got you readers. It's nothing like
Right.
that. But that doesn't mean that the people that they meet along the way and stuff like that may not, this is a hard world. And
Yeah.
I don't want what I've got planned, for this scene sort of got brought awry because it's like, again, it's like in, some children's shows, they shoot 1,000 arrows and, everyone's like, oh, is everybody okay? Like, no, they're not, they're just not
Yeah.
okay. Like there's
No.
no world where,
Everyone.
100 people survive 1,000 arrows. It's just not going to happen. So
Unless it's stormtroopers, they're shooting those arrows.
that's true. That's true. But
If it's
they used it
stormtroopers,
so hard in that we can't ever do that again.
true.
Like, have you ever read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson?
Mm-mm.
His main character's name, Jess, is Hiro, Hiro,
Okay.
protagonist.
Okay. Well, that's not the first time that I've actually heard that. You watched the show Heroes, right?
I've seen at least the first season and a half.
Yeah, one of the main characters in Heroes was named Hero.
So Neil Stephenson, though, wrote that book so well that no one can ever do something that on the nose again. It was too perfectly done. It was enough so that I probably didn't even catch it the first time his name dropped. I mean, protagonist, yes.
Right.
But just in my mind, the Hiro, okay, Hiro. Anyway, I just read, and then slowly I was like, no, this name is Hiro protagonist. And that is the finest name for an MC that you can come up with. And Neil Stephenson has stole it. And just like that, the Stormtroopers were so bad, they used up all the believability.
They did, yeah.
Of missing shots that we can no longer do that.
Yeah.
Thanks, George Lucas.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Wow.
Jerk. Gotta ruin it for everybody else.
So mad.
I think that getting through to the end of your series, I wouldn't feel as done with it if everything did end all, like, everything's rainbows and sunshine and everyone's happy and everyone survived and no one got hurt.
But there's other types of hurt, and honestly, I think that giving people some of those ups and downs makes a character feel dynamic, and there needs to be. I mean, this is a world of struggle. That's the whole point. And I would be amiss if I didn't allow it to feel when you're reading the story. I don't ever want you to be like, oh, that's convenient. There's a scene in the new Tron movie that I was, again, we sort of talked about it before. I've heard people that loved it and heard people that didn't like it. I enjoyed it, but then again, I'm a Tron guy, so I'm pretty easy to please. But there was a scene where a character landed in like a dumpster full of paper. And I'm like, could you not at least have used water where it wouldn't have been a convenient landing? That's the one time where I'm like, and I never want to write that. If I ever drop something on Royal Road and you're like, that feels convenient, you had better let me know, because I never, ever, ever want to do that. So
that'll be up to everyone else. Everyone else out there, that'll be up to them to let you know, because I don't read Royal Road.
I don't blame you. The story from book 1, I actually left the original intro up. So it's funny because what's left on book 1 on Royal Road is not much that's in the book. It's kind of like, it is kind of what happened. It is still what happened, but it's not in the start of the book because it is like 8,000 words of absolute despair. So I don't, if that's your thing, go to Royal Road and check it out. But, if you're a typical lit RPG reader, then I feel like I've given you about as much as you can handle, and I'll try to stay on the line if I can.
Well, I mean, real life isn't all rainbows and sunshines all the time, and I don't know.
Thank goodness we'd be lazy.
Or I'm more lazy than I already am. But I do read books as kind of in a form of escapism or because they're so different, and I have such a easy time putting myself in their shoes and like being able to feel what they feel, that I don't think I would want a story that's 100% just happy sunshine rainbows.
It needs to feel rewarding when you get it. You know,
Yeah.
those moments when they're uh, lucky or blessed, whatever you want to call it, enough to sit around and laugh and have
Mm-hmm.
fun, and Penny's, you know, doing Penny stuff, and Oscar's flicking water at Fox, or you know, or whatever. Like in these moments, to
Yeah.
be happy enough to have that, it needs to feel like that's impactful, because otherwise those moments don't feel emotional. I mean, there's symbolism in everything that I write. My character's Fox in 2-1. I was with 2-1 Fox in Iraq. So Fox in 2-1, or Foxoon is her name. And 2-1 is not, by the way, his name in the book is not 2-1. It's Tougwon. But, you know, there's symbolism in all of that. The designation um, for the pub, RAT, as I explained it, when they were created, it was AAA, AAB. And so there were a bunch of these
Mm-hmm.
things made millennia ago.
Yeah.
And the designation for his is he has an actual matching bracer that goes along with it, is RAT. Well, that's the initials of a friend of mine that passed away in 2013 of cancer. There's a character near the end of the book that is based off of one of my Marines I lost in Iraq. And as much as I
Was it?
wanted that character to, yeah,
Was,
as much as I wanted that
that
character
was
to
so
be there,
hard. That was
I
so hard.
I couldn't. I couldn't do it. It felt wrong. It felt disingenuous.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be glory and honor and sacrifice. And these characters mean a lot to me. Whenever I hear people talk about their characters and they're just like, oh, they do what I want, I'm like, man, you're missing out. I think there's something there.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there are people that can write a story. I'm just not that gifted that I can just write a character without pouring myself into it and making it meaningful. That that character means an awful lot to me. Way misrepresented by the length of the time in the book, but I assure you that there is a history and a story behind that I will honor. Um,
I mean, you could tell when reading about that character that there was more to what had happened.
yeah,
I mean, that it came through.
good.
It came through exactly
That
like
there
you.
is no better compliment than when somebody like, um, I was talking with somebody. I think my post I put up on Lit RPG this morning talks about that. When you pour your heart into something, and like if there's one thing I'm going to focus on, I want my characters to feel like dynamic, real people. And you know, you don't say that, you don't preach it in the book that that's what you want, and then somebody jumps on a review and is like, "Wow, you know, this felt like I knew these people. This felt like I could, you know, join this world and know who these people were, and I could actually trust them." And that is more affirming than, I mean, everybody loves a 5-star review, but I mean, even a 4-star that had that written in it, that's like, oh, the one thing I did enjoy was and if it happens to be the thing that I really poured myself into,
Mm-hmm.
oof, you've made my whole day.
Yeah. No, but I think that pouring yourself into those characters like that makes them infinitely better than someone who just writes the characters and it's like, oh, it's a character I created. They're just gonna be here for this specific plot point, and they're gonna just do whatever I need them to do, and then they're gonna go away. That's
And
not.
some people are
I mean,
geniuses
that
and can do
really comes
that,
through.
you
I
know?
don't know. I think you can really tell when someone puts
I,
that
I think
real.
I can too, but I don't want to throw shade, because I know some authors that I love their story, but their focus is on
Yeah.
the world building and their characters are living in the world.
Yeah.
You know, for us, the world is the characters, and I feel like I could take my characters and put them in on any planet in any world, and they would find a way to either thrive or go out in a blaze of glory. And that's what I
Yeah.
wanted. I wanted characters that felt like, some people are warriors. You meet people, and we live in a civilized world, and I'm not saying that the world is perfect. Everybody knows it's not. But sometimes you run into someone and you're like, you could put them with a laser on Mars fighting Martians right now, and they would just be like, I need to figure out what happened when I'm done killing all these Martians. Like,
Right.
some people are just made for that, and we live in a civilized world, and so sometimes these people fall through the cracks. That's why there's so many people that struggle with mental health and that lack of purpose, because some people were
Hmm.
born to fight. I knew
Yeah.
people that were in Iraq that were not, they would get in trouble when they were at home. And when you go over there, they're just like exactly who you want to have at your back.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and that's how you kind of wrote Oscar.
yeah.
Is he needs that purpose and he needs that goal and that like this is what we need to do instead of just aimless.
And he's got and he's a flawed character. He's flawed in that he's overly sacrificial,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not bred out of a desire to like be a martyr. He's pretty apathetic to his own well-being in a lot of ways, and there have been times in my life when the reason that I held on was because of the people who loved me and not because of myself. And I don't feel like I've dove as far into depression as so many other people. I just know what it felt like when I was peeking into that tunnel. I
Yeah.
know what it felt like when I looked into that tunnel and I expected to see some light at the end of it and there's a brick wall. I know what it feels like to wonder if if there's a reason. What kept me going during all that time was knowing that there were people that rely on me. There are people that, for better or for worse, look up to me, not just because I'm tall, but also just because I've been through something and I've tricked people into believing I handled it with grace when really I just fought and fought and fought. And I finally come to the conclusion that you cannot stop fighting. It doesn't ever go away.
Yeah.
Um, I'm doing well. I legitimately am. I would lie to you if I wasn't, but I I really am. If that doesn't confuse things further,
Hmm.
because I don't want to burden people with my stuff, and
Yeah.
that's an idiot's game. I should have people to rely on, and I'm getting better about that. Step one of that is when somebody gives you a compliment, I don't undermine it. I
Yeah.
try to take it sincerely in the way that it's meant. I've stopped the negative self-talk. Oh my God, that's so hard.
That is hard. That's a hard thing
That was the
to
biggest
stop
jump in
doing.
my mental health that I've ever done in my life. When I stopped allowing myself to call myself stupid in my head.
Yeah.
When I stopped saying, that was also the time when I finally realized that I had written something that was worth someone reading. And it's weird because if you meet me, I'm not someone who struggles with self-confidence. It's not that. I'm not like swimming in it, but I can fake it until I feel it. And for me, I've struggled a lot with seeing the worth that I bring to the table as something unique. I've always felt like a stand-in for something that anybody could do. And I've realized that due to the things that I've gone through, and especially due to my support system, I have been able to turn into somebody that I'm proud of. And that's a weird thing to say. It feels wrong to say, but if you can't say that about yourself, then please at least don't talk down to yourself. If you're not at a point yet where you can talk up, please try not to talk down. I think it was Terry Crews that said he saw a picture of himself one time and he
He's
was really beating
amazing.
himself up, and he said he saw a 9-year-old picture and he just, okay, I'm gonna tell you something right here. All right. He saw that 9-year-old picture of himself and he said, why I would never say the things I say to myself to that 9-year-old kid. When Why do I think it's okay to say that now?
Yeah.
So what I want to say is there was a time very recently when I could look back, and that poor kid that went to war, I could relate to him close enough that I still felt like I'm good. Like, we're pushing through. We can make it work. And I can't do that anymore. I have grown so far away from, in a good way, grown on top of
Right.
that I can
Yeah.
look back and I don't relate to him and I see him for what he really was. And he was a kid. He was a kid doing, you know, grown up stuff and learning how to become something that he wasn't ready to be. I had a 3-month-old daughter when I got hurt. I'd never even met her.
Oh my gosh.
When I got hurt, I put my own tourniquet on. You know, these are all things that if things hadn't have played out the way that it played out, I wouldn't be here today. My 9mm was on my hip instead of on my chest, where I carried it every time, because that morning I chose getting breakfast ready over getting my gear right. We're on the road. I didn't move my gear because you don't mess with your gear on the road. It's just asking for Lady Luck to pee on you.
Right.
And we get there and we didn't have comms with battalion. And so I'm working on the radio. As soon as we get that fixed, our inter squad radio pipes up and we've got a Marine that's got to go get stitches because he cut the back of his leg open.
Mm.
And so I still have my 9mm on my hip. We go pick up and we go across this overpass, and the first vehicle gets hit with a roadside bomb. I jump out on an overpass. We couldn't circle the wagons. We were just silhouetted on top of this overpass. I went running up to try to help and got hit. And after I got my tourniquet on, I started looking for my weapon, and whatever busted that weapon into 5 pieces would have went through me like a hot knife through butter. And so there's 1,000 things and people that came to get me when I got hurt.
Yeah.
When I put my hand in my pocket, I had this little pin that had my daughter's face on it. And I didn't pull it out and look at it. There wasn't this big like moment or whatever, but just touching it was enough for me it was like ice water to the face. And I was like, I have people. And they had called me in KIA because I wasn't moving. And that kind of got me going too, because it wasn't because they gave up on me. It wasn't that. It was the fact that I know what they called that over the radio, and 40 people heard that Doc Worley had been, you know, or more, because I'm sure it was bounced to battalion.
Right.
And that was like, I can't let them think that that's it. And so that's what got me going. And then the tourniquet and all that was because, you know, when I put my hand in my pocket, I found that little pin on my daughter, and I'd not met her yet. And I'm like, I got to go meet my kid. And, you know, it was a push through moment that was built off of a support system that I even then was working towards me. And so I've had to look back now at that kid that went through all that stuff and give him acknowledgement for the push through that he did, because he was scrambling and he was scared and he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to be a dad. He didn't know what to do after losing his purpose. And so I feel like a lot of that stuff in those hard times I poured into certain aspects of different characters. You know, there's a little bit of me in all those characters, but realistically, my support system is where I feel like the characters really shine. They really show up. You know, my middle daughter, for Penny, my oldest daughter, is just like a mirror of her mother in a lot of ways. And so that sort of like stoic, almost harsh honesty that Fox brings to the table is a bit of that. You know, Tuwan is that introspective side of so many people, and Tuwan is autistic. I don't go into that because it's not, you know, we don't really get to dive into Tuwan's head too much, but
it makes a little bit of sense though.
it does. And, you know, and you'll get to see this, and oh my God, Tuwan's heart. I love his heart. I'm going to get, what is going on with me today? So
It's not just you. It's not just you.
it's his love, the things that he does. He's a quiet servant. And so he doesn't know how to look Fox or Oscar in the face and say, I love you guys. You guys mean the world to me. So he fixes their things. You know,
He helps them walk.
He helps them walk. He, you know, he tunes up the prosthetic and he improves upon it. And his mind is always working.
Yeah.
And that's a world that he understands. He's always fidgeting with something. Like, that's his thing, is like, I can make these people safe. I just got to create a better weapon. I've got to get the armor, you know, so that it can handle certain types of attacks. And his love language is in those little acts of service. And I absolutely point that out in book 2, because it takes a while, and I didn't want to just give it away early, but it takes a little while for some people who are doers like Oscar to say, well, hold on a second here. Some things run smoothly because of other people, and I haven't acknowledged that yet. I really should give credit to that person and try to find a way to acknowledge that person in their own love language.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to just be like, I would like to call Tuan to the front and give him an award for,
Right.
like, that's the last thing that Tuan needs, you know?
Yeah.
All these characters are just different aspects of people that I admire, and that single-minded focusedness of working hard to take care of the people around you and expecting nothing in return makes we don't get. I wanted to share that because I wanted people to stick with Tuan and not think that there's not a lot going on with that character. There's so much. There's so much
I
going on with
mean,
that character.
just because he doesn't talk a lot
Yeah,
doesn't mean that there's not a lot going on.
he's got a line. Is it a? He's got a line, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he
I
talks to
think so.
Fox. He talks to Fox
Yeah, he talks to Fox
a
sometimes.
bit.
Yeah.
I think he talks to Oscar once or twice in very short, like 1 or 2 word sentences.
I love the idea of wondering, like, why doesn't he can clearly do it. Why doesn't he ever talk to me? Like, it's not his thing.
Not him.
Not his
Not
thing.
him. And he's okay with that. He doesn't try to force him to.
Yeah, he doesn't try to force it. That's a hard thing for somebody like me who, I've always gravitated towards quiet people. I'm sure it's a nightmare for them initially, but once I learn what they need from me, I love being able to give that. I love people that are a challenge. I love,
What's funny is, despite the fact that I host this podcast, which requires me to talk a lot and be very social, I am not. If you see me at conventions,
yeah.
I am the person who is kind of sitting at the edges and like not really talking much and just kind of hanging out and being super quiet. That's every convention I'm at.
So I liked you immediately from the first time we met. And I'm so
probably
sorry.
That's
What they say,
probably
like, extroverts adopt introverts. So, but I do know though that the way to build a friendship with someone like you is to sit near you and just be there. And I really, and just, hey, do you want something to eat? Boom, that's it. Like, don't even, I mean, you meet me and I think Eric D, who writes the Unintended Cultivator series, he's like, when I first met you, I thought you were a Chad bro, and he's like, I immediately didn't like you, and I picked up on that because I if I've got a skill, it's picking up. He's like, he thinks I'm like a limping douchebag, like. I made it a point to spend time around him. And my whole thing is if you don't like me, that's fine, but you'll get to know me before you make that decision, at least a little bit, because
Yeah.
I can be a little out there, but my goal is for you to be happy and feel safe around me, not for me to be the center of attention. And
Yeah.
so, that's my goal is to get to know you. And sometimes I push the edges because, I got to find out where they're at. So.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why my best friend Susan is who I always go to conventions with.
Mhm.
And the last couple of years, we haven't spent as much time together at conventions because our reason for going to conventions has kind of deviated from each other a little bit. She's very
Yeah.
much like the, I want to go. I'm super, like, she is a fantastic cosplayer. She's amazing. And she goes and she does all these photo shoots and she does all these group activities with other cosplayers and just is constantly hanging out with a ton of new people and meeting new people and getting out there and talking to people. And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'll go, but I'm just going to kind of follow you around for a little while and that'll be it. But the last couple of years, I've been going more for the, I guess the lit RPG crowd. And so she goes out and does her partying thing and I go sit at the bar quietly and listen to all the authors.
Lit RPG authors are some of the best group of people.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
see people hanging around Chatfield, James Hunter, Jez in the Legion crew, you can pretty much bet that they're a good, decent group of people.
Yeah.
Michael Head, people like that, Dakota, like it's wild to first name basis people that I still look up to. I can't call Brian Norden Mr. Norden. That just sounds weird.
Yeah.
I'm Brian Norden.
Yeah. If I saw you say Mr. Norton, I'd be like, what are you? Stop
He
it.
would eat that
Stop.
up.
I mean,
He would probably, he'd be like, you have to call me that forever now.
exactly what he would say. So you can't.
No, so you can't do it once. He's
Can't.
definitely the he'll always pick the bigger spoon if you're splitting an ice cream.
That just means you have to eat faster.
That you have to eat faster. That's right. You got to pace him.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, all the authors and the publishers and even the readers, like narrators and artists, everyone is just so friendly and welcoming and just genuine. I haven't met a single person yet that I'm like, that person's kind of fake. Or they feel like they're just kind of putting on a front. Everyone's been fantastic.
And also there is a very healthy level of competition. They're like gym bros. I don't know, if you know what I mean by that. Like, I think there's a culture that is within lit RPG authors that are like, what are you struggling with? A person that is literally my direct competitor. What is it? What can I do to help you? It's like Daniel Day-Lewis and what's the guy who did There Will Be Blood, John Thomas Anderson, something like that.
I don't know.
Anyway, so Quentin Tarantino and him have always, he's like, if it wasn't for There Will Be Blood, he's like, you never would have gotten Inglourious Bastards. It's like, it pushed me to up the level of what I was capable of doing. And that's what it's like between people like James Hunter and Dakota Kraut. That's what it's like between, these authors. They're very, very encouraging. They want to beat you at your best, if that makes sense. And they will help you get there.
It does. It's the same. That is the exact same kind of feel as it is with our very small group of lit RPG podcasters.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for Richie and Joel of Chat and Stats.
I love those guys.
I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for them.
Yeah.
They invited me to come on and co-host a few episodes, and I was like, oh, I can totally do this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this. And then, Pop started doing his
great.
podcast.
I'm still waiting on him to review my book.
Pop, you better get on it.
Get on it. Unless it's bad, and then don't.
And he started, and he asked for some feedback, and I was like, listen, like, you're doing really good, but I think just tweak this just a little bit, and just tweak that just a little bit, and like, it'll be even better, and so that's exactly how we are too with each other.
That's great. And I'll say this about you. It flows very well. It feels super natural. I don't feel like it may not feel that way, but it does seem that way to me. And so, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I have done bad interviews before. Trust me. I think we've all done those where you're like, have they been talking for 12 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, how am I even going to edit this?
My episodes are minimally edited, luckily.
Yeah. I don't think we've flubbed anything up too much, unless you're trying to get Waller Girl out of there. That'll be the third one?
We can keep it.
Okay.
We'll keep that in. But I typically have like a million different questions planned out. And I have I have each question written out on a Post-it note, and I have them all over like my laptop and my stand, and they're everywhere. And I will refer to questions, and I have them in a way where they kind of flow, but I also will skip questions or dive deeper into something just as it, like, I like to also let it just kind of naturally flow and progress.
Yeah. Like the flag on the moon. I just want to see how many conspiracy theorists jump in at that point. The waves.
There's no wind on the moon.
Jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. Let's get them riled up. Let's see what happens.
The earth is flat.
It's a concave and convex.
Oh, man. Chemtrails.
Chemtrails, yeah.
So
I will say that you should always read conspiracy theories to see how susceptible you are. I don't care who you are. There are some really smart people that I think are trolling. I don't know, because if you haven't read at least one conspiracy theory that you're like, Actually, the biggest conspiracy theory is that I know of that I'd love people to do research on is that Willy Wonka and Snowpiercer are sequels.
I don't think I watched Snowpiercer.
You should watch the trailer for it. It's got Chris Evans in it, so if nothing else, there's a reason to watch it right there.
If nothing else,
if nothing else. But there's like a 14-minute, so you watch them and even knowing like, okay, that's right there. There's like a 14-minute video and you're like, this is ridiculous. You have to do that, by the way. This is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous.
You nailed it. Perfect. And then you watch it and then your head just slowly tilts more and more. And then by the end of it, you're like, there's no way that this isn't on purpose. And then all of a sudden you've got your tinfoil hat on. You're on a podcast years later telling somebody about it.
Maybe that'll be the next. Maybe I'll start a second podcast and it'll be nothing but conspiracy theories.
Yeah, you let me know. I'll jump on. I'll pretend like I believe anything for fun.
Yeah, that'll be the one that really takes off.
Yeah, you'd be like, I'm so bitter about this. Why am I famous for being the conspiracy theory girl? I would rather have been Waller girl.
Maybe I need to start saying Waller.
I'm done with the throwback on that. I'm done with the throwback. I won't bring that one back up. That was my last one. It was just too good. You know, you alley-ooped me.
It was good. That's funny. So what's man, all right. So we got way off track here.
Oh yeah. I blame you.
And it's my fault. I let it happen.
Oh, no, it's totally me.
You did it, but I let it happen.
Yeah.
It's my job to keep it on track.
I
like
around
letting
me.
it off track sometimes. That's part of the fun.
I think it was all the way back at Terry Crews. So if you just want to cut all the way back to Terry Crews, I think we were still kind of on track there.
Yeah. I will say though, Terry Crews is a phenomenal human being.
Yeah. You want to talk about self-correction?
I've done some reading on his past and like his struggles, and he is, he is inspirational.
What a guy. I mean, had some struggles in his life that were affecting his marriage and stuff like that. I won't go into it because I want you to hear it in his words. His growth is so beautiful. Yeah.
My partner has, well, I don't know if he still does. He probably still has it somewhere, but at one point he had a quote, like a big quote from Terry Crews, printed out with a picture of Terry Crews underneath it, and he had it on his wall. Because he's just...
With his shirt on or off, because that matters.
I'm pretty sure the shirt was on. I'm pretty sure.
We can fix that.
He had a shirt on. I could fix that.
I'm sure there's a Photoshoppable, way. I'm sure there's a pose where he's doing the exact same thing, just with less clothes on.
Yeah. I'm sure I could find one. I'll fix it.
I'm a straight guy, but I do want to touch his abs.
Who doesn't?
I mean, I feel like that's straight, right? Yeah. Just research.
Just appreciation.
Yeah. I want to admire him with touch.
So cats.
All right, cats, let's do this. This is a big thing. I made a mistake with the cats in that I know it's odd, but there was more lead up in the original opening, number one, and number two, I never stated, I just assumed that everyone knew the Bastet was the goddess of cats. So it didn't occur to me to say it straight out. And now it's an audiobook. So I could technically go back and clarify a little bit, but realistically what happens at the scene that I know that is in your mind right now is there really is a representation of power that's there. You know, for Oscar, for Gandalf, it could have been a big gout of flame. For, Korra the Airbender, it might have been water. And for Bastet, her representation of power is in a spiritual representation of something that already exists. Many of those cats are actually named by readers and people that I know. The opaqueness or tangibility of the cats is based off of whether or not they are living or dead. And I want to tell you something that you probably won't hear anywhere else. whenever you see a cat fighting a hairbow or something like that, that may just be where they are physically. Spiritually, they could be fighting somewhere else. So there you
Like real
go.
cats, like cats you have around your house.
So with the cats, the tangibility of the cats are based off of whether or not they, at the time of writing, were living or dead, and the playful fighting or whatever that you might see with cats and things like that are could be training for something. You never know.
They could
They may
be.
not. That cat. If there's an animal that exists on more than one plane, it's cats probably.
Yes,
You know.
100%.
So
100%. They can see things that we can't. I'm convinced.
I agree 100%. And that's kind of where that side of things stemmed from. So originally there was just going to be a great wash of power. There was going to be, or whatever in that particular scene. But in my mind, I did something odd, and I know it's odd. But realistically,
It was cool though.
it wasn't one of those moments where it wasn't the big bad that we're dealing with. It was just a problem in scale. And I think it's clear that there were no elements of what was available to our collective, that could have handled something on that scale. And so they ran to something that maybe could, that had called them and basically said, you will be safe here if you come here.
Yeah.
So it might feel a little odd, but it is fun. And I feel like it's true to what I have built Bastet up to be. So.
Okay. I mean, it was a really cool scene.
And by the way, bro, the start of book 2 is going to give you a backstory on that I cannot wait. I did something crazy there too. I go into a first person shift for a scene that I think I'll shut up. It's going to be wild.
I can't wait to read it. So I guess one last question before I let you go, because I've had you for a while now.
But it's been great.
It's been fun. So Vala.
Wait, I just want to stop. You went into your falsetto there, and I'm concerned that it hasn't been fun.
No.
I'm just
It's been the worst.
It's been good. It's been real good.
It's been the worst. I want to wrap it up so I don't have to do this anymore.
Oh my god! Oh, that one felt.
Okay.
Oof.
No.
I know where my heart's at now. All right, I'm so sorry.
So Vala, in one of those fights near the end, these kind of shadow monsters show up.
Yeah.
And it talks about how when they scream, it sounds like two voices. So is that their scream, but also Vala's scream because she is somehow connected to these, or are these actual organic creatures? I feel like they were something that she conjured up to fight. And so
in a sense, absolutely, that's what's happening. I go into exactly what that is, but realistically, you're gonna love the end of book 2. But realistically, what they represent, the sickness of the world. They represent exactly what's killing it. That draw of power comes from something or somewhere or someone that Vala is addicted to. That drug of power that she's that she just willingly gives into. I will say that the Griffiths vulture was unwilling, and that's why it represented itself differently. You see something different with the Griffiths vulture and the decay that it was fighting. That's what looks like when something is inherently not evil and fights it as hard as it can for as long as it can.
Yeah. And that makes actually perfect sense.
And Vala is what happens when you give in. Vala is what happens when you allow it in. And then anyone weaker than you is mindless at that point. She does control because of her power. It's I go into that and I can't wait to share. I cannot wait to share.
I can't wait to read it.
You could probably get a general idea of what I call it by reading the summary of book 2, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Okay. Where can people find you online?
So I have a website called Yarn Grunts, YARNGRUNTS.com. It's not super fleshed out now. It just has book 1, but you can also find Wayspring Wanderer on Audible, and it's available on Amazon and KU as well, Kindle Unlimited, for my homies like me that like to burn through as many books as we can throughout the week for the low price of probably going up. And
Yeah.
Wayspring Warden book 2 is with the editors right now. I am pouring myself into book 3, going back and forth writing and sort of sharing ideas with some of the people at Shadow Alley Press, and I've got some people in my corner that are thoroughly enjoying the direction that I'm going with it, and so I am excited. I will say that the stakes are growing, and I can't wait for you guys to see what I got planned, because it's fun for me, so I know it's going to be fun for somebody else.
Yes. Do we have a release date for book 2?
It is in January. It will probably be ready before. In fact, give me just a second, and I'll look it up, because it's on there, but it's sort of a loose. Let's see here. So book 2 is expected to come out January 13th.
Okay, perfect.
So it'll be sometime right after the start of the year, no matter what.
Okay, not soon enough, but I'll accept that.
I agree. I thought it was going to be too long, and then like work and life, and I'm actually almost glad that that it's that far, because I don't want the gap between book 2 and book 3 to be super long, because book 2 ends and you're gonna want to read book 3 immediately. I wanted to write book 3 immediately. In fact, I pretty much wrote right into the next book before I started editing book 2, because I had to just get that down while it was fresh in my head. So
nice. Well, I will be sure to link to your website and your Amazon page in the description of the YouTube video. And that's all I have. Thank you, Joedan, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around and hanging out with us. Thank you, Angel, for editing my podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and keep on leveling up.